All right, good evening. This is the January 2021 meeting of the Wyoming Board of Education. I call this meeting to order and ask for a roll call.
Mrs. Broderick?
Here.
Mr. Meese?
Here.
Mr. Thomas?
Here.
Mrs. Yee?
Here.
Mrs. Zoller?
Here. Would you all please join me in the pledge to the flag? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, thank you. We have reinstated the recognition of the public, so I would like to just do a little bit of an explanation first of all. Starting tonight, the live stream of Wyoming City Schools is on our Wyoming City YouTube station, our channel. And so Board of Educations will no longer be streamed over Facebook. This gives us the opportunity to reinstall recognition of the public, which we do at our in-person meetings always. Albeit this time, it's going to be virtual as long as we remain virtual. These are not public meetings, but meetings held in public. But the Board of Education wants to encourage, and we appreciate our citizen participation. We like when you share your ideas with us. Wyoming residents and Wyoming City School employees may address the board at this time. And if you don't mind, I'm going to read this statement from our policies. Public participation videos will be included in the board meeting. They will be included in meeting minutes, and they will be live streamed to and archived in the Wyoming City Schools YouTube channel, along with all other public portions of this meeting. The board reserves the right to refuse inclusion of a video that does not abide by public participation principles, such as racist or discriminatory remarks regarding gender, race, sexual orientation, national origin, disability, etc. Public commentary of specific personnel matters is simply not permitted. So during this time of our virtual meetings, if you would like to be a part of recognition of the public, please prepare a video, no more than 3 minutes, and get it to us on the day of the meeting, prior to 8 a.m. It goes to Susie Hankey, and her email address is hankeys@wyomingcityschools.org. You can always send it to info@wyomingcityschools.org as well. And then we will have it for our meeting that evening. Thank you. So I believe we do have a recognition of the public this evening. Could we go to that, please?
Yes, there's one public comment video to share. It's from Wyoming resident Margaret Castro, and her topic is remote learning and how its impact will be addressed in the coming months.
All right.
Hello, Wyoming Board of Education. This is Margaret Castro. I have 5 kids. 4 of them are in Wyoming City Schools, ranging from full-day kindergarten up to 5th grade. And on behalf of the Castro family, I just wanted to offer our sincere gratitude for you guys making a really tough call in getting the kids back in school. I know it's Board Recognition Month, and this is not an easy time to serve. And we're all very grateful to you for the time and energy and worry and sleep you've given up in order to serve our community. So thank you to you. Thank you to Mr. Weber and to the administration and staff for getting our kids back in school. My kids are so very happy to be back. It's benefited them socially, it's benefited them emotionally, it's benefited them academically. It's benefited me to be able to work, and it's also been wonderful to see my children learning away from a computer, because the electronics time is out of control. So thank you. We are doing everything we possibly can to keep safe outside of the school environment so that our teachers who are doing wonderful, wonderful things in the classroom can stay safe. As I look forward, trying to figure out how to catch my kids up, I would hope that the board is doing the same. I want to make sure that our district is looking at the issue of learning loss and how we can identify and catch up those students who have fallen behind. Probably most students, but some more so than others. And so I think it's a matter of equity that the district do what it can to catch up the students who really need the help. Whether that be students whose parents weren't available during the day to help them with school, who had technology issues, who have resource issues, who have learning issues, special needs. Please focus on special needs students. Hilltop has a wonderful intervention specialist in Katie Gottschall. She can only do so much if she doesn't have the resources that she needs. Please look at summer learning as a possibility. Please look at extending the school year. Please look at perhaps implementing a year-round school calendar, which could really benefit a lot of working parents. Our district hasn't shied away from doing what's best for the kids, and I don't think it will now. Please also take a look at the tuition bills for the full-day kindergarten families. I know there have been a lot of questions about those. These are all hard issues, and I appreciate you taking the time. I appreciate you offering me the time to contribute. I look forward to hearing from you in the coming months to hear what we're going to do to catch our kids up. Please be well, be safe, and thank you.
All right, thank you very much. We will go to our board committee reports. The first is finance, and finance, I believe, met this evening.
We did. I'll start if that's okay with the committee. You all can jump in. Some additions along the way. Finance committee, just to remind folks, superintendent, treasurer, board members, Kara Broderick and Aaron Meese, and we have 2 staff members, Todd Seiler and Beth Smith, 2 teachers who join us on this committee. Tonight, we heard an update about the Wyoming High School HVAC project. Just awarded that contract earlier this month, so not a lot that has happened since then, but we heard a quick update. We did take a look at the all-day kindergarten tuition. The tuition for next school year is on the agenda later tonight for the board's consideration. So we looked at some information regarding all-day kindergarten tuition. We reviewed our stimulus money. If you had an opportunity to watch the video that was sent out to families today, there was an update in the video updating the community on stimulus funding and what we were using those funds for. We also did just receive our second payment of ESSER stimulus money. That was passed by the federal government in late December. We received our allocation on Friday. So just under $525,000. So a significant allocation of revenue, starting to plan some of those K-1 intervention services and planning for some summer intervention services and also some additional technology. So again, just got that dollar amount on Friday. And so starting to finalize some of those plans. We also reviewed, so 2 pieces of late breaking news, the second round of our ESSER federal stimulus money. And then late in the day on Friday, the governor signs an executive order that was reinstating some of the state funding cuts that we had experienced. And so our original reduction was just under $410,000 for 2 years. So $410,000 last fiscal year and $410,000 an additional loss of state funding this fiscal year. But the executive order restored some of that funding, and we received the amount today that we'll be receiving $225,000. So we appreciate the governor reviewing the state the state budget and understanding that they were coming in a little high on their revenue estimates, a little better than their forecast. Aaron's favorite word, forecast positive. So the state was forecast positive. And so we appreciate the governor's reallocating some of that revenue back to school districts and helping us reinstating some of those cuts. We also did a reappraisal case study. So we've talked a couple different meetings about understanding how property tax values are impacted during reappraisal and how property tax payments or an increase in property values across the district of an average of 13% doesn't generate that an increase in property tax revenue for the district. So we took a look at two different pieces of property, one that saw an increase in taxes as a result of reappraisal, and another piece of property that actually saw a decrease in taxes due to reappraisal, just to understand the mechanics of how reappraisal impacts property values and tax rates and tax payments across the district. I'm sure I left something out, so my team wants to jump in.
I would just want to point out the last thing Rhonda said there, that and it was a great exercise that Rhonda walked us through, but it's important for a lot of our citizens to know that your property values might go up, but your taxes actually might go down, and that has an impact on the revenue that we get here in the city schools. So an increase in values doesn't necessarily mean an influx of cash for the city schools. So all the more reason to keep our dialogue about the levy going into the next year or so.
Right. And to keep that dialogue going, we have a CAC group, correct?
We do. Yep. Yes. We did this exact same analysis with that group as well. One of the we focused on our first meeting on revenue. This past meeting, we focused on the expenditure side, but also took time to look at this case study as well. So they went through that exercise as well.
Right, great. Well, thank you. That sounds like a very busy meeting. You hit a number of points. Well, and now how about the Citizens Advisory Committee? Ilya, Heather, Tim.
You want me to go first? How about I'll go first and you guys can fill in any of the gaps. Yes, so we met on January 14th to continue the two studies that we're focused on. So thank you to all of our members who are heavily focused in the areas of school financial planning, as Rhonda mentioned, and then also school start times, and trying to see if there's any benefit to modifying our school start times at any of our buildings. And so during our meeting, we allot time for those study teams to work together. So they had time to work together and then time to come back to the group to ask any questions about those individual studies. We're planning for each one of those groups to present to the Board of Education later on this year. In April, the plan is for the school start time study team to present to the board. And in May, the financial planning team will be presenting to the board. Heather, Ilya, I'm not sure if you wanted to add anything to that discussion.
I was prepared, then you hit the one part I was going to mention relative to when do they come to the board for the discussion. The thing I would just add is this year there's some things that have been looked at and furthered from the work of teams that had presented last year. You know, we generally say the teams do work and analysis and provide some inputs and perspective or recommendations to us. It's not that those are the things that we automatically necessarily go and do, but very excited about some of the ideas that will come from the team's work and looking for how we can strengthen our district as a result of those inputs.
Definitely.
And did you not say last time that the start time group had actually expanded their research, and they were not just looking at time of day to start, but the school calendar as well?
Yeah, they are. They're also looking at the school calendar and even looking internally. Maybe some of our schools maybe have appropriate start and end times, but the order of our schools, how certain things like transportation are impacted or impact the decision that we make. So they're looking at all of those different pieces. Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. Anyone else? Then I'm going to go on to the Superintendent Committee Liaison Reports. Business Advisory Committee did have a meeting.
We did. We met on the 15th, and the Business Advisory Committee is a group of districts that work together, and we are focused on understanding employment skills and career development ideas for students. And typically that's high school, but it might go down to younger students at any point in time. So during this conversation, the meat of the time was spent on a discussion related to identifying career leaders in each district, which would work together to identify ways that we can bring that critical information to our students. Specifically, they talked about internships and other career ideas. Again, primarily focused on high school, but there was some discussion about that being appropriate for our middle school students also. So I'm glad the team is working together and excited to understand how these career leaders from each district would come together and brainstorm ideas that we can bring back to our students.
Great, thank you.
Mhm.
Community engagement.
Well, thanks to the pandemic, there's not a lot going on, but I just wanted to take a moment and thank Margaret Castro for submitting the first video in this new format of public recognition. And even though we can't, just like in our in-person meetings, we can't respond to someone directly who submits a video at the time of the meeting. I really appreciate her submitting something and invite others to do it in future. So it's great to engage the community and hear from you.
And then we had that, Tim, you might have been mentioning this, the Wyoming School Foundation.
Go ahead.
Oh, okay. That they're changing the blue, white, and brew that they've had historically as the fundraiser to the blue, white, and drive-through that's coming up. And honestly, I changed my notebook in like a few days. What date are we on right now? Like, what date is that, everyone?
The event is the 30th.
Thank you.
So,
I lost track of time there. All of a sudden, I was like, today's the 25th. Okay, so that's coming up. So that's, although different, community still supports the school foundation, which would be wonderful for those of you who can do that in a different manner this year. And then, like Kara said, the COVID, I know each year, each meeting, we're like, we're going to change up community engagement. And then we're like, okay, later, I guess.
Well, I actually was able to go to the Wyoming School Foundation meeting that they had. So you mentioned the date on the 30th, but there's corporate sponsorship, but also meals that folks are able to purchase, as well as other travel and other packages you can bid on, kind of. So
Right.
Trying to generate that revenue, as you mentioned, in a different way. But also, I don't know if you saw on the website, the Hugs for Heroes on the Fund a Need kind of video that was done. When the meeting, they showed the video, and I think it's since showed up on the website. I saw that there was some dust in the room, as I was watching it. My allergies started acting up as I was watching that. So I encourage you to take a look at that when your day needs some uplift. And the last thing, there's always the fun run that's done in spring. And I think the tentative date for that is April 25th. So there's more details on that. There's some ideas for how to liven that up, as well as managing for any COVID concerns. But that's the tentative date for that on the fun run, is April 25th.
So Ilya, can I ask you, is that Hugs for Heroes, is that Fund a Need like we did for the Champion Center last year?
It is Fund a Need in terms of the exact, the approach being exactly the same. I'm not sure the detail on that, but that's what it is, the Fund a Need, Hugs for Heroes.
So that you can bid on that like you would another item?
Yes.
Before the 29th, I think.
Yes, I believe.
You can make a contribution as well. And don't forget to order your dinner from Tila, because that's going to be done as a drive-through. You just.
Yeah. And I think today is the last day that you can actually order that. So today's the deadline. So it's great to mention on this.
For all who are watching.
All right. So if you
hopefully lots of people
put your mute on, go ahead and do the order, but keep listening to the meeting here.
Right.
And I'll wave when it's your turn to talk.
And I will just like to share our appreciation for the Wyoming School Foundation for the work that they do to organize these events. Sometimes everyone who's involved doesn't get to see the impact that it makes for our kids in classrooms, but it's huge. And so thank you to the foundation for all the big things, all the little things they do, because it ultimately, again, benefits our students and our staff. So we appreciate all that. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I know we just redid the assignments for this year, but next year I encourage someone to fight me for that. It's actually an encouraging thing to be in those meetings, into the discussions, hearing the heart that people in the Wyoming School Foundation have for this district and for the things that they're doing to generate revenue. It's very encouraging to me monthly when I get a chance to sit in with them. So there's a lot of great work happening there.
Great, thank you.
I was going to make one addition just about community engagement, if I could. Just a reminder that our video series continues. We are receiving questions at covidquestions@wyomingcityschools.org. And so I encourage individuals to please continue to send those questions so that we can answer, again, the most frequently asked questions. Today, we had a video that went out. We had some different topics. We had school lunch times that was addressed, CARES funds and how the district is using CARES funds, and then ventilation. And so we had some special guests. Rhonda was part of the conversation talking about CARES money. And we had Jan Wilkeen as part of the conversation too, talking about our ventilation in our building. So it's helpful to know what questions are on people's minds, and then we can address those in an ongoing basis. So we'll continue to do that.
I watched the video. I like that you keep it to under 5 minutes, but you all packed a lot of information in there. So I encourage people to click on the video, because you will get some very good information, probably to questions that many people have had, not just a few. So thank you for doing that. You all were all very well spoken.
No, I thought that was another neat part. There's 3 people, kind of the experts, answering the questions. When I clicked on it, I saw it was 4 minutes and 37 seconds. I was like, yes, I can do this. So it was very helpful to see the experts there answering, tough questions. So thanks for doing that each week.
But with the images too, by the way, like, because Evie was there too when we were listening to you. So I think it was neat for her to see how all the schools might be doing it. Just that visual is helpful to me.
Right. Well, and it's hard when people can't get into our buildings.
Right.
It's important to be able to see a snapshot of what that looks like.
Right.
So it's good to just think of community engagement in such a different way, how we have been, right? So what we think is engaging, seeing each other face to face, is just a little bit different for a few months.
Correct. All right, thank you. Could we have equity, inclusion, and anti-racism?
Aaron, if you're okay, I'll just provide a little bit of an update. Okay. We actually have a team meeting. Our Equity, Inclusion, Anti-Racism Committee is going to be meeting later this week. And we'll be meeting to, again, talk about the goals that we have set for this year. I say for this year, but it's really for this year and beyond. Then we'll dig into all the work that the Belonging and Inclusion Collaborative is doing right now. So just to review some of the biggest areas that we've identified as goals, knowing that this is all work to our efforts to create this climate culture where there's a true sense of belonging, so that every student, every staff member, every family feels or truly believes that and feels this great sense of belonging in Wyoming City Schools. So some of the efforts that we're doing to create that climate culture is, we're looking at our hiring practices. We're looking at course enrollment by ethnicity, trying to identify if there are any equity gaps in our courses or departments. Looking at student discipline data near the end of the year to review what that information tells us. And we're also analyzing our curriculum and our resources. And it's an ongoing process. There's a lot there. We are really digging into right now course enrollment data, and we know that work will continue well beyond this past year as all of the work in these different areas is going to continue. Right now, our focus is really looking at course enrollment data. We know that we'll be going through the course selection process soon for many of our students. And so we're looking back at 2017, 2018, 2019 course enrollment data, and we're trying to identify any potential gaps in equity within those courses. And so we have a small group, a small data team that's been reviewing that data, putting that data together in a way that helps us to see what the story is and to review that story. So soon in February, our Belonging and Inclusion Collaborative is going to be meeting, and they'll be looking at all of that data that the small data team has been pulling and putting together in a way that we can, try to identify what it's telling us and what we might potentially do with that. So that data will be used in building teams soon in the future too. But this is just our initial work to, again, open things up to see what it tells us. So It's incredible work, and I appreciate everyone who's on the Belonging and Inclusion Collaborative, and especially right now, these few individuals are really digging into the data. It's powerful.
Yeah, it didn't take you long to say all of that, but that's a lot that we haven't done in the past to this extent. And I think it's going to be just so important. Can I ask you, the course enrollment, I think you may have said this before, how far down are you going? Like to middle school? Like, I know they don't really have a choice in the lower grades.
Right. What we're working on right now is high school data, and the reason we've limited to high school data is because we're trying to figure out the best way to look at that data. We've talked though about going down to throughout the middle school level, because especially in mathematics, there are different choices and different opportunities for kids. So we'll definitely be reaching down to our I'm going to say right now, probably fifth grade, or that transition from primary school to middle school. But for right now, just to get our arms wrapped around how we might be able to effectively organize the data, we're looking at high school data first.
Okay, that's great.
And you've expanded the membership of this committee this year, correct? Or changed some of the people who've been serving?
We have. So we have new members to the group, and very similar to CAC, we want to make sure that anyone who has an interest and a passion for this work is able to be connected to this work. So we'll continue in that fashion to make sure that individuals who want to be part of it are part of it. But we've also talked about individuals who were previously part of this. We want to make sure that we're continuing to connect with them and growing the base of people who want to impact students and affect change in the future.
Okay.
I just want to add, kind of speaking about achieving this climate of inclusion, there are a couple of things from the high school just in the last couple of days that I saw that were great. One was course offerings that now include African American studies as well as women's history, which I don't believe either of them are AP courses, but they are being offered next year. And I was delighted to see that. Also got an email today as a parent from Adam Reed saying that a survey, Ashley, you might help me with exactly how to describe it. The survey that basically tries to gauge the social and emotional well-being of our students. And as far as I know, it's going to be a pretty detailed survey. Parents, of course, can opt out, but hopefully most will participate, which will provide the district with a lot of tools to see where we need to go in terms of supporting all students, their whole person.
Mm-hmm.
All right, planning and goal setting. Do we have anything we want to talk about here? We've not met formally, but as a board committee anyway. But I think I
would just say that we are really opening up discussions about the 2021-2022 school year, and developing plans for what that might look like. As we've traveled throughout the whole pandemic, we've had to be prepared for many different avenues, depending upon what happens, and that's going to be very similar as we look at this summer and then opening up to next school year. So we're having those conversations and looking at all those possibilities, and again, as we always have, try to develop the best possible plan for our students. So those are happening right now.
All right, you're going to talk about that a little bit later as well.
Yep.
When we explore those new classes that Kara talked about. Okay, student achievement had a DLT meeting.
You want to keep going, Tim? I feel bad.
I'm okay. No.
Okay.
All right, so I'll start, and anything you want to elaborate on, feel free.
Okay.
Yes, we did. And we've met more than we have in the past, which is critical at this time. And really it's because we know that the pandemic is changing on a daily, weekly basis. And so we want to make sure that we keep pulling together, talk about what our needs are, whether those are student needs, staff needs, how we can best support our students and our staff members. So that's a continuing conversation. We did have a few other topics that we met about. We were talking about professional development opportunities that our teachers are taking advantage of. And it was exciting to see the professional development that teachers are accessing even during a time of pandemic. And then we also spoke about educational resources and what the future of some of those educational resources are, and try to again just have some conversation around the tools that matter most for teachers. Anything else?
Oh, I was just going to say a brief, like, that people were excited that there was more to the agenda than the pandemic and COVID. Yeah. So, I mean, is that sad that we're like Mastery Connect? I mean, like it felt exciting for them and for us, and probably for you to talk about a little something different. So
it's so true. It is so true. Yes.
For me, being a board member listening, it's always helpful to me, since it's you and teachers and principals, just to hear really the goings-ons really from their mouths, and the struggles and the parts that are good, and suggestions or ideas of sometimes what you need but not sure how to suggest how to get there. Just that conversation was helpful from my perspective. Just talking about like the subs, as you've talked about before, not to get into the nitty-gritty of the entire thing, but all of that was helpful to talk about. And even it would be interesting for me to hear, probably all of us, we said the community was starting to sign up for more people to sub. It would be interesting to me to see how that moves forward, what people are actually able to commit to coming to be able to do that.
Yeah, Dr. Whiteley and I were just talking about that today, and sometimes for people to sign up and be part of that program, it takes a few weeks, and so we're eagerly watching and anticipating the time that some of those folks can be added to the pool. It will make a huge difference. So we're very excited about those individuals, and I think we've got a handful of people who want to be part of that program, and that will make a very big impact on our ability to keep classrooms going. And that's one of the factors that we're watching every single day.
We have been able to use some of our funding to actually hire full day substitutes, correct?
Right. Yep. Dr. Whiteley, do you want to speak to that a little bit?
We currently have 2 district subs in place, and those individuals kind of fill the holes. We don't plug those in advance, but really those are the things that we wake up to, those last minute absences that we often have trouble filling. I actually spoke to the consortium today about a possibility for a third one of those. We're continuing to monitor that data very, very closely. Right now, based on the data that we had those in place for third quarter. Based on the data we have, we will probably be extending those out for the rest of the year through the end of the year. And again, hopefully the consortium has come through on both. We have great subs right now who are actually educated to be teachers. They are fabulous district subs. And so hopefully we can secure a third one in the upcoming weeks.
Yeah, I think the DLT meeting that I attended, which I think was the most recent one, somebody was singing the praises of the district-wide sub that had been in the middle school. And so that's wonderful to hear. And like having a district-wide sub is not something we normally do year to year. Is that right? Like this is something we've.
Right.
Yep. And one of the things I think that was very helpful was to take time initially to introduce these individuals to each building and get to know their systems, because they're all different and they're not sure on a daily basis where they're going to be. And that has been extremely effective in terms of the product that goes to students, because in the end, that's what really matters. Is we want to make sure that our people are prepared so that when students come into the classroom, it's smooth and they're learning. And that's enabling us to do.
I had a couple comments and then a quick question. To your point, Kara, I just want to thank the folks in the district for thinking about leveraging the resource to get subs kind of in the district and have that readiness, just so that as we experience one interruption or the other, COVID related or something, there's the ability to pivot and sort of maintain the quality of the education, that kids are getting in the room. So I appreciate that's not something we've normally done, but we did it this year to kind of deal with this. And so appreciate that. I also noted, kind of in the Facebook conversations, there's lots of people who've been, saying that they, some of the people who've been pushing, like, let's get back in the building, whatever. They've been also sort of generating a lot of energy around people signing up and sort of saying, if you have these kind of skills, go ahead, get in the process, sign up,
Great.
be available to sort of help keep, that happening, part of the interest that they've had to sort of have the 5-day thing happening. So it wasn't just a sort of like, you guys aren't doing what I want. It was kind of a, hey, this is how we can help, and rallying some resources to go help make that available as well, which was personally encouraging. The question for me relative to the student achievement question, I know we're relaxing, or maybe the state is relaxing some of the report card or other ways that we measure what the academic progression is for kids, kind of in the classroom. And part of the questions around how do we help kids catch up or what have you, the question that would ring in my mind is, how will we measure sort of or understand where kids are, kind of this year as we get to April and May, assuming we're able to be 5 days kind of on this rhythm and we're mostly, kind of in school the whole time. There is some things that have been missed, or there's concerns or questions parents and folks have around their kids falling behind in some way or the other. Without those state measures to sort of assess and whatnot, how will we measure and understand where any gaps are such that we could use that in designing any programs or things we do in summer or other times to help people, quote unquote, catch up?
Dr. Wiley, I'll share some thoughts on that. And if you want to expand on any of these, please feel free. We will continue to have state testing. So state testing will still take place this year for our students in the same subjects that we had planned for last year. However, that information comes to us very late. And so it's not the most powerful information to us to use right now. One of the tools that we've implemented this year for the first year is map assessment, measures of academic progress. And so that's kindergarten through 8th grade. And that is, that information will be valuable to us. It's taken 3 times a year, and we're able to use that information right now. And so we're analyzing that information to see where some of those potential gaps might exist. We're also doing other forms of assessment for our youngest students, literacy assessments that connect directly to our kindergarten and 1st grade. And that's why we're really looking at what opportunities we have right now to provide intervention for our youngest students in literacy instruction. And then as we think about the summer plan, we'll be looking obviously to our teachers and the information that they're pulling from their individual classroom assessments and their knowledge and from the relationships they have with students, but then also using some of this formative assessment, especially the MAP assessment in reading and mathematics, to help generate the content for some of the instruction or some of the learning opportunities that will happen during the summer. And then also to identify specific individuals that would benefit the most from that remedial instruction. Ashley,
If you saw oh, go ahead.
Oh, sorry, Kara.
I was just going to say, and if people tuned into your video today, it showing the money that we're getting in support of COVID, there's a pretty large chunk of it to go to intervention, either, maybe for some of the younger learners before summer and into summer. So, and one thing about MAP, that's our own formative assessment. This isn't like state mandated. This is something that we're doing along the way to really to know where kids are at more frequently throughout the year and in more real time.
Yes, yeah, that is our decision. And we connect that assessment to our MTSS plan, our intervention plan within buildings. And it, like you said, Kara, it allows us to see where students are in real time. So when they come in for the start of the school year, we get a quick check on their strengths and weaknesses. And we get an idea of what they're ready for next with regard to instruction. And then as we enter the midpoint of the year, we get to see the impact that we've had on students and to see how much they've grown compared to what our goals were for their growth. And so that's a first quick check to see how well students are advancing. And we can see some students who are advancing quickly and some who are struggling. And so we can utilize that information during the course of the school year. And again, it gives us a good opportunity to see what students' strengths are, what their weaknesses are, and what they're ready for next. And then as we end the year, that same information helps us plan for the start of the school year. And so transitioning from one grade to the next and information and conversations between grade levels they all benefit through the use of that tool. And yes, you're right. That is a tool that we decide to use as a district.
What are some of the things we have been using? Because I know the primary has had a number of things in place for assessment, and over the year they meet periodically to talk about each child's needs.
Dr. Whiteley, do you want to go back and review some of the assessments that have been used?
So in the primary particularly, we have benchmarking meetings, and benchmarking meetings look at a combination of DIBELS, they look at a combination of Ames Web, they look at a combination of MAP testing. They'll also look at that in classroom data and taking into concept the pacing guide. So the depth of knowledge and the power standards that a child is being exposed to during that grade. And so those benchmarking meetings are really great meetings where teachers and administrators and specialists come together to really talk about the individual progress of each student based on all of those assessments, and then also the story behind that. So you're looking at complete data of both quantitative and qualitative to get a story in all of those MTSS measures, not just academic, but mental health, environmental factors. And so then you're able to create a plan that's intervention. And I know we think of intervention maybe as helping growth, but also if you are need some enrichment, you're showing on the gifted end and you need to plan for that as well. So those benchmarking meetings are a great way to tailor and take all that data, add the story behind it, and then really come up with a personalized plan for learning for each student with where they are. And so those really focus on reading and math, although there are conversations around science and social studies, and the predominant conversation is around reading and math and making sure we're meeting those benchmarks.
For this year, are you adding a data point of indicating whether they were remote, if they had chosen remote or in person? Because I think that would be interesting, not just interesting, but important.
Those are interesting conversations because you see kind of both ways. You see children who are really thriving in a remote environment or maybe a hybrid environment. You see students who are struggling. And so all of that becomes part of the conversation, whether that's like a technology gap or an equity gap around that. Maybe there's just a processing, coming into the technology. So all of that comes into play in those conversations. And that's why we have that team approach to really make sure we're looking at the different layers of the child and kind of all the pieces that are going on in a normal year, much less in this unique situation.
All right, thank you. All right, I'm going to go on to the Board of Education report. It is the job of the board to evaluate and negotiate with our superintendent and our treasurer, and we have all been involved in one way or the other. And I thank you, all members of the board, because this is a lot of work, a long time, and is a true commitment. But I've asked Aaron to kind of bring it all together since he was our anchor point there. So Aaron, can I just turn this over to you?
Certainly, be happy to, Jeannie. Thank you very much. We've been very fortunate in the Wyoming City School District to have great leadership during the pandemic. We were able to recruit Rhonda Johnson back to the Wyoming City Schools in 2017 from her hiatus at the Mason School District. And of course, we hired Tim Weber back in 2019 to be our superintendent. And I think if you had asked the board back in February of 2020, we would have told you even back then, we were thrilled with the leadership that Tim and Rhonda had offered to our community and to our schools. And certainly after going through the challenges of the pandemic that has now lasted almost a full year, and will probably be with us for another couple of months, the board unanimously feels even more strongly about Tim and Rhonda, and furthermore feels it's critical to establish long-term stability and continuity in our district's leadership team. This is for the long-term strength of the school district and for the city of Wyoming. Many of you know that many of you believe like I do, that as the city schools in Wyoming go, so goes the city of Wyoming. And the strength of the school district is absolutely essential to the strength of this city and our community. Tim and Rhonda have demonstrated leadership, courage, determination, and care for our students. They have established strong relationships with teachers, staff, and community members. They've been transparent, open, and honest in their dealings and offered sage counsel and advice to the Board of Education. So to that end, as Jeannie said, we'll be voting tonight to extend their contracts through July of 2027 so that our community can rest easy in the knowledge that we will have strong, established, and long-term leadership here in the Wyoming City Schools. Thanks very much, Tim and Rhonda, for all you've done. Thanks to everyone on your teams, the teachers, administrators, students, families, but in particular, thanks to you two for all that you've offered us, the leadership you've provided to us in our district over the past few months of the pandemic, and certainly beyond that time, before the pandemic started, and all the leadership that we know you'll offer us for the next several years. Jeannie, I'll turn it back over to you.
All right, thank you. I'd like a motion to approve the education report.
So moved.
May I have a second?
Seconded.
All right, thank you. May I have a roll call?
Mr. Meese,
Yes.
Mr. Thomas,
Yes.
Mrs. G,
Yes.
Mrs. Zoller,
Yes.
Mrs. Broderick.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you and congratulations.
Thank you. We have great people here, and I think Rhonda and I both are just excited to continue the work and continue to move past this pandemic and do the great things that Wyoming City Schools is known for.
Absolutely. All right, thank you. I'm going to turn to the treasurer now.
Thanks, Jeannie. The treasurer's report, I'll start with item A, approval of the minutes from the December 14th regular meeting, the December 22nd special meeting, our January 5th organizational meeting, and our January 8th special meeting. Item B, approval of the statement and revenues and expenditures for month ending December 31st. Item C, appropriation adjustments per attached. Item D, recommend approval of the all-day kindergarten tuition for next school year, the 21-22 school year. There's no change. I'm not recommending a change in kindergarten tuition for next year. And item E, approval of the report, please.
All right, thank you. Any questions or comments? I would appreciate it, Rhonda, if you would just remind us that this tuition is not changing. It covers the cost of the teachers, the regular classroom teachers, not any of the electives or specials or additional aids. It's merely salary for teachers, correct?
Correct. We reviewed the math of that analysis in Finance Committee earlier this evening. Be happy to share that with the rest of the board if you're interested in seeing that. It does cover the cost of our staff to extend the instruction to the students for a full school day.
All right, thank you. All right, may I have a motion to approve the treasurer's report?
So moved.
And a second, please? I'll second. And may I have a roll call?
Mr. Thomas,
Yes.
Mrs. G,
Yes.
Mrs. Zoller,
Yes.
Mrs. Broderick,
Yes.
Mr. Meese. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Superintendent's report.
Okay, thank you. We have several personnel items to recommend. Number one is the recommendation to approve unpaid leaves. There are two. Number two is a recommendation to approve this both of these two non-athletic supplemental contracts. Number three, you'll see there are several athletic supplemental contracts being recommended for your approval. And number four, this is a recommendation to approve pay for one of our teachers who is going to be teaching an additional bell. And this is in addition to her normal schedule. And that would be for the remainder of the school year. And then number five, which I thought we'd have some discussion about. We're excited to have several new course proposals. Kara has spoken about.
Sorry, I
No,
jumped the
good.
gun on
That's
that.
good.
I was just so excited.
It's exciting. There's nothing wrong with that at all. And so I know we have Ashley Whiteley with us, and I think we have Louise Anderson who's going to join us also to share some specific details on the new courses that we're proposing for this upcoming school year. And then also there's several modifications or revisions to some of our current courses that we're also making for the upcoming school year. So with that, I will turn it over to Dr. Whiteley, do you want to start off?
Sure. So as Mr. Weber mentioned, we have a couple classes. I'm going to go ahead and let Louise Sanderson, she's our department chair of the social studies department at the high school. She's going to introduce her 2 new courses and also talk about the revision that are pertaining to the social studies courses. And then after that, I will kind of walk through the rest. So we want to make sure that Louise gets to start with us with her 2 new, and then we'll talk about the revision. So Louise.
Hi there, everyone. Thank you for allowing me to participate in the meeting tonight and address and discuss some of the exciting new options that we have for our students. I apologize if there was some audio feedback. I was like doing the live watch on the YouTube channel and it got a little confusing. We are super excited for our new options that we have available at the high school next year, especially listening to the conversation that you were having earlier on in the board meeting. We're really discussing what types of needs were available for our students at the high school, and just kind of from an overwhelming standpoint, from student feedback, conversations in the classrooms, conversations with leadership, off the record, also kind of doing some surveys with students unofficially. It is abundantly clear, and has been for some time, that in our department there was definitely the need to offer more inclusive course offerings that would be available to all students and not simply just AP courses. And given the tenor of the time, given the need for it, it's always been there, but I think having the opportunity to have greater representation in our curriculum, the 2 greatest needs and interests really revolved around creating a course around African American studies to try and pay homage to the unique experience of African Americans, their contributions to society. This will be different than a history course. So while there will be some context built into the course around history and focusing on key figures and contributions throughout that narrative, there is going to be a broader perspective, kind of more of a sociological perspective and interdisciplinary perspective, with an emphasis on bringing in guest speakers and highlighting authentic voices to speak to that experience. I think now more important than ever. It's an inclusive class. So it's open to students grades 9 through 12 of all ability levels. It is intended to be a really discussion-based class where students from every single background can really gain a greater understanding of those around them, of our society, of that lived experience. And the hope is that all students are going to gain just an incredibly rich perspective and be able to be more empathic community members and building that culture and community of inclusivity at Wyoming High School. In that same vein, we also created a women's studies course. And so I think, Ms. Broderick, you were discussing, it will emphasize some women's history. It is again also interdisciplinary. And so to examine the experience and contributions and inequities that gender plays in our political contributions, social contributions, economic contributions, both in the United States, as well as in global society. That is also a course that is intended to be inclusive for students grades 9 through 12. And again, lots of reading various perspectives, lots of discussion, hopefully really wanting to attract students from all backgrounds. So it's not just intended for young women, but to discuss kind of the role that gender plays and how our lived experiences are quite different. And so that's a semester class. Both of those new courses are semester classes. We are offering those in the 21-22 school year, as well as the 22-23 school year. And then we have a rotation of some of our other electives that we'll be offering, but I think we anticipate that these are going to be quite popular and that we'll see a lot of students that maybe we didn't see represented in our course signups when we really had a dominance of AP classes, that we're going to see a more holistic, student body and attract some faces in because they can speak to this and they can really, I think, have impact on one another by being in these classes. The last course is not a new course, but a new iteration of an existing course. So AP Human Geography, Dr. Whiteley, you could speak more to kind of the long history of how long that course has been offered at the high school. We took a hiatus from the class really when I started back in 2016, 17, I think, somewhere around there. And then when we reintroduced the class, I kind of revamped the curriculum a bit to better align it, et cetera, with the College Board course of study and content articulation. It was and is currently a semester course that is open to students grades 10 through 12. The content that is covered ranges, it's geography, but it really examines human behavior and practices across space and examining those distributions and patterns. So it is interdisciplinary in a lot of ways, in that it is bringing in historical background. It's examining political behaviors, population changes, a lot of health practices, sustainable development. So the feedback I've gotten from students, and now that I've taught it several times, they're like, this class has got such engaging content. Like, man, I wish I had had the opportunity to kind of do some of these deep dives in my other courses. The problem, or the catch that we were finding, is that in order to cover all of that content in a semester, it's a really, really quick pace. And it's really unusual that the class is offered in a semester. It's more typical in schools that do offer it, that it's offered over a year. And that allows for time to scaffold and build some background knowledge. It's a really vocab heavy course. And so rather than kind of this crazy speed, really getting to dive in deeply to explore cultures from around the world, understanding, doing more application, hands-on experiences, which is what, from student feedback, that is what they love about that class, and really getting to study content that they don't get to study in a what they think of as a traditional social studies class. So in the vein of expanding opportunity into providing an academic elective to our freshmen, where there aren't typically a lot of those that are open to freshmen. This would still remain an AP course. They would still have an AP exam at the end of the year, but it would be open to students grades 9 through 12. That relaxation of the pace would allow for greater scaffolds, vocabulary acquisition, deep dives, collaboration, projects, etc., along with still preparing them so they can have success on the exam. But that relaxation of pace allows for us to capture a greater representation of our student body.
Thank you.
Do you have any questions for Louise specifically about social studies before we talk about anything else?
I do. Some of them may be better discussed offline. First of all, I just wanted to say I'm very excited about the expansion of some of the offerings, happening. Mm-hmm. The idea that kids might be in an engagement that is discussion based in social studies and history, and maybe generate a recognition of how valuable that is before they're 40 or 50 is just a big idea. I just realized at 35 and 40, I was in places and I realized I learned about this in school. I know I did. I wish I'd paid more attention, And so this idea of past is prologue, it could help people really get excited. So I'm very thrilled that you're doing it. One of the things I was curious about, you probably don't have to answer these right now, but how we build, like what that curriculum is or what that discussion is for the women's course as well as the African-American. And then how, as we talk about it coming, do we encourage students who might feel that they are the other versus the target of the class to actually be in it. So we're not just speaking to the choir, kind of in a given set of content or that kind of thing. But I'm very excited and hopeful about what those offerings will do, kind of in the curriculum.
So to some extent, to answer your question, we have time in our kind of course scheduling timeline at the high school that's built in, where in the social studies department, we are going to be speaking with students and discussing kind of all of our courses, both our core classes, but that's really going to be an opportunity for us to discuss the content and experience that we want students to have in those electives. And so to speak to your idea of, preaching to the choir, there's lots of reasons that, if those classes speak to you personally, to sign up, but also kind of, I think it's a method of how, I don't want to say advertise, but how we pitch them to some extent, because I think there are a lot of students that don't see themselves as social studies students, or that's not something that they excel in. They might have an interest in making sure that they feel like they have a place in that class.
Agree.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Louise before we let her steal away?
I just want to
Kara, did you have a
second.
question?
Yeah, I just want to second the idea of, I've already, I'm excited, but the idea of emphasis on classroom discussion. A lot of times, especially with recent events, the insurrection,
Yep.
now more than ever, we need to be talking about world events. And if not in our classroom, then where?
Exactly.
And allowing for this discussion, we're saying discussion is not bad.
Mm-mm.
How teachers guide and direct the discussion, they need the training, they need the resources to be able to do that. It can be tricky, but we've got to give kids facts. We got to help them discern facts. And we have to, as a society, learn to discuss.
Mhm.
And so I'm so thrilled. So thank you for your hard work and appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you. I'm very excited to be able to go back to my department and just share the enthusiasm over what they are so excited about. So thank you.
Thank you, Louise. That was a great explanation on all three of those. Thank you.
Please do take that back. Yes.
So I'm going to kind of continue. Louise, you are welcome, as we discussed, to steal off if you.
Have a good night.
You're certainly welcome to join us if you would like to stay as well. Okay.
Good night, guys.
Good.
Bye. So, those are three great, exciting opportunities. We still have some more to talk about, which is even more exciting. The first one of those is through the English department. We might toy with the title a little bit, but right now we're calling that Literacy for Life. And that's a reading strategies course. And what this is for is a semester-based course, could even be a year-long course depending on the student. But really, this course is focused on our non-IEP students who are struggling with reading, so who are not reading at grade level. This is going to be a very small targeted class, so probably around 8 to 10 students who have been identified as struggling readers in that class. And really, it's a growth opportunity. It's really a time to give a strategic, very structured reading program to help those students advance until they become on grade level. And so really a student will be in this class until they meet that growth, until they meet that plateau that they can advance out of. So for this next year, we're really looking at 9th and 10th graders. And then for the following year, 22-23, we would probably be opening that up to all grades 9 through 12. So part of that conversation as we roll out this course is kind of the reading program that we will use. Some of that is part of the conversation are programs that already exist at the high school that we've used in the past, or maybe that some in the middle school, so we can have a transition. And then the next piece will be working to make sure that we identify those correct students, because again, this is not a large group of students, but it is a need, and it's a very important need because reading impacts all disciplines, as we know. And so to make sure to target that and give an intervention approach will be a very important process. And there's been a need for that at the high school for quite some time. And so to be able to implement this and implement it with fidelity with a strong reading program will be critical. Is there any questions about that one before I go on to some other new courses? Okay. The next one is art exploration. If you know anything about our typical art classes at the high school, they're very focused, they're very targeted. What I mean by that is we have drawing, we have painting, we have metals, we have sculpture. And I can say this as a person who is not artistic, even though CJ Langenhop continually tells me I just haven't sat in one long enough to feel that gift nurtured. I see the talented things our students create, so I do believe him. We are going to create an art exploration course. And what that is really is it's to expose students to all the different mediums and all different varieties. Instead of them choosing one on the front end, they get to see the full scope of what art can look like. And then based on their talents and their passions and their strengths, then the next wave would be to be able to target that and pick some of those courses that already exist. So instead of kind of selecting and hoping I'm picking the right one on the front end, now I have almost like a survey. I'm going to use that kind of art survey class experience where you can dabble and experiment and just kind of grow your passions and nurture your strengths, and then kind of take a more honed approach. This will be a semester class as well. It is not an AP course. It would be for the entire student body, 9 through 12. But again, art is very, very popular at the high school. It's always a very, very popular elective. So this will just be one more avenue to kind of broaden the horizons of what art can look like for our students.
And it's so popular. Do you, I mean, obviously the staff feel like they can do it because they proposed it, but does this involve hiring more staff or?
It does not. Currently, we feel that we can accommodate this in the rotation. Again, kind of like Louise talked about, being strategic in those rotations, and instead of just kind of throwing everything out there all at one time and hoping everything sticks, being more targeted and laying that out in the course guide so that students can plan ahead. They know what their 4 years look like, so they can plan ahead in the schedule for what they would like to take. The next class that is a new offering is AP Spanish Literature. This is the only AP class that is being brought to you this evening. But the reason for that is this will actually finish out or complete the AP course offerings for all the languages that we offer. So there's AP Latin, there's AP French, but AP Spanish is a little unique. There's AP Spanish Literature and there's AP Spanish Language. We currently offer all the language courses in all 3 of our classes, but we have not offered AP Spanish Literature. And so with this introduction of this course, we will finish out that sequence for all of our languages that we currently offer. The reason that we are looking into this is, first of all, we've had some interest in this over the years, but particularly with the advancement of CCP, College Credit Plus, we really feel the need for this because we do have learners who are advanced, or maybe they come in as a native speaker from somewhere else, or they have they're bilingual and they have multiple languages. Instead of a student having to go to CCP, so to go off campus, to go out of Wyoming High School to be able to take that course, we now are going to be able to offer that in-house and to be able to give them that experience. They read some really rich, wonderful Spanish literature while looking at that culture piece, which I think culture is super important to embed in a literature class. And it's kind of, we have talked about this evening, the importance of that interdisciplinary. So this will be the AP class that kind of finishes out the sequence. And I don't know if you're familiar with Dr. Arrieta. He's a Spanish teacher at the high school. This is actually his expertise. So he actually taught this at the college level as well. So to be able to bring that expertise and his passion and couple that with the language and passion that already exists in the department, I think will be a fantastic addition. And any questions before we go on to revision? We have just 2 revisions. So Louise talked about one of those. We actually have 3, but 2 more that I'll talk about. Louise talked about one of those with AP Human Geo. The other 2 are actually in PE. So if you look at it, it's around competitive sports and next level athletics. So if you recall, we have 4 classes of PE currently at the high school. We have PE for me, we have team and individual sports, and those are graduation requirements right now, meaning we call those to meet the graduation requirements. And then the world opens up to kind of PE electives. So competitive sports and next level electives. The revision that we are talking about is removing that prerequisite of the other 2. And so really, though, instead of having 2 graduation requirements and 2 electives, they all become applicable to the graduation requirement. So I can take them in any order. They can meet any requirement for graduation. And that was kind of an arbitrary structure that we had created, that these 2 count for graduation and these 2 don't. They all meet the same standards. They all meet the Ohio requirements for graduation requirements. And so we just want to give students a little bit more choice in what those graduation requirement looks like. And we also have some students who are very athletic and very involved in extracurriculars, and that will give them an opportunity to kind of take those 4 in a more fluid manner than kind of that stepping stone that we had before. So no major change, just to get rid of those prerequisites so that we can open the doors of flexibility.
That's great.
Sounds good. All right, thank you. May I have a motion to approve the superintendent's report?
So moved.
And may I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. May I have a roll call?
Mrs. Yee,
Yes.
Mrs. Zoller,
Yes.
Mrs. Broderick,
Yes.
Mr. Meese,
Yes.
Mr. Thomas.
Yes.
All right, thank you. A lot of information in this evening's meeting. Does the superintendent have an update? Of course he does.
I do, and it's hard to follow that because that's good. That's good work. That's exciting work. So to all the people who put the time and energy into to create plans for those courses and who are thinking about other courses that might be coming along the way in the future. It's a lot of work, but it's done because they see a need. to bring to our kids. And so that's so very, very much appreciated. Okay, so we can't have an update without talk about where we are with regard to our school plan. And so I'm just going to go in low level first and talk about our school plan. Okay, so just to remind people about some of these are connected to frequently asked questions that we get. So I want to make sure that I address some of these things because they're definitely important. First of all, we are entering our third week of in-person learning after winter break. Again, we went to fully remote to distance ourselves from winter break, and now we're entering our third week of in-person instruction. And hats off to our students, to our staff who continue to follow every protocol very carefully. And we all appreciate how sincere everyone is about following those safety protocols. We are continuing to watch our data on a daily basis. So we're looking at in-school, in-district data with regard to student cases, staff cases, quarantines that are there. We're also monitoring our the level of COVID in our community. And our ability to continue with those safety protocols that we've identified in our district that are important. In addition to all of those things, we are watching for the new variant of COVID in our community, and we'll continue to talk about that with our science advisory team. We have another meeting scheduled for tomorrow morning, and so we'll watch the spread of that and how that might impact our school district. One of the things we're watching, as I mentioned, is the spread of COVID in our community. And, it's been nice to see that in our community, there's a bit of a downtrend in the number of cases per 100,000 individuals. So we're watching that and hoping that trend continues in that direction. But as I've said, it's important to continue to monitor all of those pieces every single day, and to mention that if there comes a time as a district or as individual buildings that we need to modify our plan, we need to be ready to do that. So we continue to share that with everyone because we need to be flexible. If any of these things should show negative data to the extent that it's not safe for students and staff to the level it is now, then we're going to have to make a modification to our plan. And again, we are ready to do that. So in general, that's where we are with our school plan. We have had some questions about quarantining. So I wanted to talk about student quarantines, staff quarantines just a little bit. And so these are questions that are relative to quarantines from in-classroom situations where all students are masked, staff members are masked, all of our cleanup protocols are in place. And so we've had new guidance, and I wanted to remind everyone what that new guidance was. Ashley, Susie, feel free to step in. I know there's new information every day, and we continue to monitor that guidance and that new information. So with the new Ohio Health Department or Ohio Department of Health guidance, students that have been identified as a close contact in an in-classroom situation where everyone was masked, cleaning protocols were taking place, they may attend school without the need to quarantine. And that is new guidance that we received from ODH. However, students that are in that situation who have been identified as a close contact, they may come to school to participate in instruction. They are not able to participate in extracurricular activities or athletics. And so that is specific guidance that we've received from the Ohio Department of Health. We're working.
Wait, what? I'm sorry, I don't.
Those students are not participating at this time in extracurricular activities or athletic activities. And so we're talking with the Hamilton County Health Department to ask that question and to make sure that our county is aligned with our state. And so we're continuing to try and reach out to them to make sure that there's alignment there. And until Hamilton County Public Health changes their guidance, we have to follow the published guidance that we have right now, and that comes from the Ohio Department of Health. Ashley, Susie, anything you would add to that?
I guess the other thing, Kara, so when a classroom individual is identified as a close contact, they are actually told that everywhere else they need to quarantine. So we're actually also telling them they're advised that when they're at home, they should be quarantining also. The only place that they're not quarantining is in the classroom during the school day. It is
Okay.
It is what we have right now.
Right, right.
So let me ask you this. If the close contact was discovered, say, this was a contact at lunch when they were eating and not masked, is that a different, like you have to stay out of school then?
Yes.
That's
This
different.
only
So
applies.
our typical quarantine guidelines or process would have been utilized in that situation, yes.
These
So
new
we're-
guidelines only apply to a classroom setting where masking has been involved in our normal protocols.
Right.
So mainly because it doesn't speak to the extracurriculars, we're saying that nothing's changed in the extracurriculars. You would still have to quarantine. It's not like we're saying it's okay to be in one place and not okay in another. It's just that they haven't matched up, it appears.
Right, right. And so, and again, that's the most local published guidance that we have that we need to follow. And if there's a change to that, whether that change comes from ODH or that change comes from Hamilton County Public Health, then we'll make sure that we're aware of that new process and those new protocols. But at this time, right now, this is what we have to follow.
Well, at this time right now, that it's state guidance, correct? We have,
Yes.
the county has not put written guidance out there. They also are following the state. So that makes it even more confusing.
Right. And as with everything else, things change all the time. And so we watch and we reach out to people. We keep asking those questions to make sure that we understand completely the not just the guidance, but the impact on students and staff and a community. And we'll continue to learn as we go with this.
I guess this is our first, am I right? Our first full week of 5 days of going every day for those who choose to is this week.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want to put you on the spot. So I don't know locally, like local as being a building, are there a number of cases that is there a threshold at which we say we're doing X, Y, or Z?
Well, it's there's a few different factors that we look at with that, and this goes back to the conversations we have with our science advisory team. We're looking at numbers of cases for students and staff, but as closely as we look at that, we're also looking for connections between a positive case and students who are quarantined or identified as close contacts. So we're looking for any evidence of spread. And those become just as important in that conversation. And so when we were earlier on in the year, we were looking at an individual building. We chose to take a direction on that because we weren't comfortable with those numbers. And we didn't necessarily see that there was spread, but we weren't comfortable with those numbers. So we made a decision for that building in particular at that time. And those are the same kinds of conversations that we'll enter into. It's hard to identify a number per se, because whether, when there's just two individuals that seem to be connected, that tells you something quite differently from 3 or 4 students that clearly are not connected whatsoever.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
That makes sense. Thank you.
Sure.
One quick question. When you say connected, you mean that there was transmission that happens at school?
Right. Yep. That's from day one. That's what we've been watching for.
And they were together connected.
Right.
As opposed to, you might have transmission at school, but if you have it in 3 different buildings of people who've never seen each other, that's the difference.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I mean. Transmission from one person to the other that happened as a result of them being at school.
Yeah.
Right.
And the way that we define that is, if through the contact tracing process, if we identify a close contact and then that close contact ends up testing positive or showing symptoms, that would be the evidence that we're looking for an in-classroom transmission. We have not seen that at all.
Okay, great.
So another topic that is on everyone's mind is regarding vaccines and when we're going to be getting vaccines for our staff members. And so wanted to give you a little bit of an update on where we are with that process. Currently, we have completed all of the necessary requirements that we were told to do to be in a good position to have vaccines for our staff members. So some of the things that we've done, we've communicated our interest to the state and that we are planning to be in person at least at a hybrid level or fully in person by March 1st. We can obviously see that. We're doing that right now. We surveyed our entire staff for a complete list of staff members that are interested in receiving the vaccine. So we've got that information. We've got those numbers across our entire district. We've identified a partner to help in this process. That partner is Beacon Orthopedics and Sports Medicine. We already have a relationship with Beacon, and so it makes perfect sense. We were recommended to find a partner, a trusted partner that we're already working with, so that exists, and we're going to be utilizing that. Beacon has already applied for and been approved provider of the vaccine, so that step has already been taken care of. And so right now we're waiting for Beacon to have some contact from either our county service center or from the state as to when they'll be getting the vaccine in their care. And then we'll make those plans to go out to Beacon and vaccinate our staff. But they have the numbers that they need. We've communicated those numbers to Hamilton County Public Health. We've communicated all that information to Hamilton County Educational Service Center, to the state, and to Beacon. So everyone has what they need to put this in action. That's as much as I have to share on vaccines. I don't have any information on when that's going to happen. So everyone I speak with, I caution them to have patience. February 1st has been laid out there as a date, but I think we all realize that the number of vaccines that are available to folks aren't what we need. And so this might take a few weeks. I'm hoping that we're going to be early on in that process, but I'm just not sure yet where that's going to be. We're positioned well. We've got the things done that we need to do, but we'll see. As soon as I get information, I will make sure that I share that with our entire district so that they know where we stand. The last school-related item on our plan, I was going to just share just a few things, which we've already talked about many of these things with regard to what we're doing right now. And so lots and lots of planning taking place right now. We talked about identifying learning gaps. And so we're looking at that student data. We're making plans for intervention for our youngest students, again, K-1. That will be happening soon. And then we're making those plans for how we can help support students and fill in where potential learning gaps are over the course of the summer. So those plans will be coming out later on this spring, but we fully intend to make use of that time and work with our students in every way that we can. And then the other piece, again, that I've shared is lots of conversations about next year and what potentially next year looks like. And so we talk about the vaccine and whether that's available to certain populations and what that means for our school program. So all of those important planning conversations are taking place and will continue to take place throughout the semester. Any questions on our school plan, any of that information?
Tim, one of the things that came up in the finance committee meeting that I don't think we made clear here, but I just wanted to make sure I heard right. The intervention for the K-1, that's not during the school hours. That's in addition to,
right.
Yes. Families will have that opportunity.
Yeah, that will be in addition to their typical school day. Yes, great question. Yep. And soon our staff members will see the call go out for individuals who are interested in being part of that work. We'd love to have our own teachers teaching that important content, and great. Our teachers know our kids the best, obviously.
Right, great.
Other questions? Okay, I would say for anyone who's watching tonight, again, COVID questions at wyomingcityschools.org. Please send those in. We'll continue to provide updates on the topics that people most want to know about. And we'll continue to provide updates during our monthly meetings. I do have one more update though, and this takes a different path, a different turn. And it's for me, and I speak on behalf of many, many people here. It's for me to share my sincere appreciation to all of our board members and to let you know that we appreciate the incredible commitment that you make to Wyoming City Schools. And Susie, I see you're trying to share something. I don't know if it's coming through on other screens. I do not see it. That should be a shout out to our board members. If you can see that, great. I can't, that's okay. But you know, this month is board recognition month. January is board recognition month, but your commitment honestly shines through every single day. And we appreciate the countless hours of conversation, phone calls, meetings that you put into supporting students. It's absolutely amazing. You know, we talk about leadership matters, and that phrase could not be more important than this year during a pandemic. And you think about all the different ways that you've led and continue to lead. All of those things that you do matter. They matter to kids, they matter to staff, they matter to families, they matter to an entire school community, and they make an impact. And so, like I said earlier, you know, you might not always see the impact that's made, but believe me, the impact is there and it's felt and it's appreciated by all. So thank you. Congratulations on Board Recognition Month, but thank you for what you do for everyone. So on behalf of our students, our staff members, our families, the entire school community, we thank you for the incredible work that you do and appreciate you every day.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tim.
Thanks, guys. It's like a big group hug for
Sure.
everybody.
I don't know that there's a button we can press that does that, but if I could find one, I'd do that. And we have some nice messages. We have some students who have shared their thoughts on what you mean, and I'll be delivering those as soon as the board is over tonight.
Aw.
Tim, did you say all those nice
Very
things?
kind.
Did you say all those nice things so we extended your contract?
I would have said them anyway.
I'm just
It
joking.
made me terrible.
I couldn't resist. I couldn't resist. It was right there. I just kind of.
I wondered if you might do that, or someone might.
All right, why don't we get out of the meeting?
We're having so much fun.
May I have a motion to adjourn?
Why would
So
you?
moved.
Thank you. And second? I'll second. May I have a Cole, please?
Mrs. Zoller,
Yes.
Mrs. Broderick,
Yes.
Mr. Meese,
Yes.
Mr. Thomas,
Yes.
Mrs. Dean.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you all. And